We're living in a time where people are more connected than ever, yet lonelier than ever. Everyone talks about the loneliness crisis, but no one really talks about how to make friends. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a self-help guru. I'm just someone who's been lucky enough to build deep, decade-long friendships. And I've learned that it's not magic, it's intention. This is Friendships Unplugged, where we stop scrolling and start talking. Real stories, real friendships, good laughs, insights, and no filters. Welcome and enjoy. Hi, Neil. Welcome to Friendships Unplugged.
Hi, Iris.
It's great to have you here. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to be here as well. Really appreciate the chat because I think this is going to be interesting.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and I've seen your other podcasts as well, and I've got a lot of good stuff to live up to.
So, if you listen to the other podcast, you know the initial question will be, how did we become friends from your perspective? I just let you talk a little bit about how we met and how we became friends.
Well, we became friends a long time ago in the beautiful city of Gothenburg in Sweden. And you just joined the company that we both worked for. And your manager and I happened to be in Gothenburg at the time. And you came along, and I seem to remember you drove because you were relocating to Gothenburg. So you drove a car from home in Switzerland. And one of my first recollections of you was you offered to give us a lift somewhere, probably to the hotel or something, or to the fun fair or whatever. But anyway, and your car absolutely reeked of rotting cheese. And I remember thinking, well, I know, the Swiss love their cheese, but this is a bit ridiculous, to actually have a cheese perfume in your car.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I remember you were like, yes, I don't know what it is. It's something stuck in the tailpipe or something. And we couldn't find out. So we were looking around the carpet and everything, and we couldn't find out what was making this desperately bad, smelly cheese smell. And
I never did.
Yeah,
I never did.
Never did. You had to
No,
sell the,
it
you had to
just
sell the
magically
car to get
disappeared
rid of it.
again.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
And yeah, and that was the first day, and I think that was funny. So we like funny, lighthearted and everything. And the same day, you and your boss, who's done a podcast as well, Tracy, went out for dinner, and Tracy's already recounted that story. So I won't embarrass you any further by saying what happened. But
Yeah, I lived through it.
basically, you fell out of a pub, Iris. And
Yes, I did.
yeah, and it was very, very funny. And both Tracy and I looked at each other and kind of went, "This is going to be fun." But it wasn't just about the fun. I mean, I remember we spent many hours that night talking a lot, and you always know. Well, I wouldn't say instantaneously, but within an hour or so whether you're going to be friends with someone. And I think that was obvious that was going to happen, just because of the level of conversation. Obviously, very intelligent, but no, we were all kind of on the same wavelength. And I think sometimes like minds just happen to meet each other in a car smelling of cheese, and it's just one of those common things that happen. And it was great. It was a fond memory.
Oh my God, I have not thought about this story in so many years. I mean, you guys came to Gothenburg to onboard me, and you stayed at Gothia Towers Hotel, and I picked you guys up in order to drive to the office all together and then do the onboarding. And I remember entering my car this morning, and it was literally, as you say, it was this horrendous smell, and something must have died in it or so. I have no idea. And I got into my car, and I'm like, fuck, I have to pick up my new boss. And, in a car that stinks so bad. And it was cold, and I drove into town with all the windows pulled down. I was freezing because I was trying to get the smell to get out. But yeah, obviously it didn't work. You both came like into the car, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm your new employee. My name is Iris." And you're like, "Oh yeah, thanks for the lift." What? What is this? And then yeah, magically it disappeared a few days later. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting that you say within the first hour or so, because this is a topic that has come up a lot. When I ask people, when do you know that an acquaintance has turned into a friend, or when do you know that someone is potential friend material, or when do you know that someone kind of has these traits and there's this chemistry that you want them to stick around. And most people said, it's happening over time. I had a few people talking about almost having like a crush, not like love, romantic love crush, but like a crush. And you kind of, similar to what you're saying now, within a short period of time that you want more of that person. So is that something you can talk a little bit more about?
I like that idea of a friend crush, um, because I think it's true. I think I don't go looking for friends. I think I can count my real friends, my really good friends, on less than two hands. Um, and it doesn't worry me at all because they're real friends. And I have to admit that most of those on my two hands um, have come about from a friend club. It's a meeting of like minds and like humor, and basically, honestly, people that just don't mind putting up with me. Is is the way my friendships have come about. But I do know that people might struggle with that, and I do know that there are other types of friendships that do evolve. I can think of a couple of people that are friends of mine that I didn't originally like, and I'm not going to name names, obviously. Um, but it took me a long time to warm to them. It wasn't a friend crush. It was kind of a nice crush, if you like. It was a slushy friendship, or sort of an evolution, and it just kind of evolved over the years as part of a process of joint experiences, and I think you get to a point where you think, well, actually, I was wrong about you because maybe you were just a little guarded, maybe you were just a little introverted, maybe you had the same humor, but you didn't want to show it because you were worried about what people might think, whatever it was. And I think that does happen. But for me personally, the majority is absolutely just, I meet someone, we get on great, that's it. There's obviously more to friendship than that. It's not just a case of sitting down and having a meal and a drink and laughing and then you're best mates forever. You've got to show commitment. You've got to be there for them. Hope they're there for you when you need them. Hopefully you don't need them too often, but it's nice to know they're there if you do need them. But definitely make sure that you're there for them if they need you.
And it's interesting what you're saying, that you've had people that you were wrong about, and over time you developed an affection for them. I've had these examples as well. And if I think back, it's interesting because something forced me to stick around these people. It was either work or joint friends or a membership in a club or so. And hindsight, I'm grateful that I was forced to spend more time with these people, because otherwise I wouldn't have had the chance to change my mind about them.
Yeah.
And I think the older we get, the more often we might have done that.
Yes.
And it teaches you to be critical of your first initial judgment, potentially. I find over time, due to these experiences, I've become more tolerant, and instead of judging fast, I try to be more curious to see if I prematurely made up my mind about someone
Yeah.
which may have been wrong.
And they're kind of a balance, I feel, because it's very easy to gravitate to people who share the same values, same sense of humor, same musical taste, same dress sense, whatever it is. You're kind of, you feel comfortable with them. But I think it's good to also give people that you're not necessarily instantly attracted to some patience, because they could be a really healthy counterbalance to your normal behavior.
Oh,
And
amen to that. Amen.
yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
you just need someone who says, "Hey, Neil, just don't say that," or "Neil, don't do that," or "Maybe you should do this," or "Maybe you should have done that." You need those people. You don't need your life full of people who just go, "Yeah, that was great," or "Let's go out," or, nothing wrong with that. That's brilliant as well, but you do need the counterbalance.
And that's how you develop as a person, right? You need people who broaden your horizon by exactly not being a copy of your own set of values.
Yeah.
I feel it's that some of the conversations that you learn the most, whether or not it's actually with friends or a conversation you deliberately expose yourself to, is when you proactively try to understand someone's opposite view. Like for me at the moment, and I reckon it's probably similar to you, this development that we undergo globally, where, so many countries seem to develop back to right-wing extremism, anti-feminism, all these crazy political polarization that politicians are trying to split society. I find it can be so valuable to proactively, in good spirit, so to say, even though it's very, very hard, to try and seek out an opposite view. So, speaking to someone who is right wing, for me, that it feels very hard because it's clearly a completely different worldview I'm sharing. But, if I'm forcing myself to try and keep an open mind, speak to a right wing voter or a supporter, I can learn about, like, where do we differ? Where are we the same? And I feel it's only when a dialogue happens is when society comes back together. And I feel that is why this political polarization works so well at the moment, because everyone is stuck in their bubbles. Just to close the loop back to friendships, how many right-wing extremists do have a Muslim in their friend circles, even have ever talked to a Muslim, like properly? Have they talked to a Black person? How many female friends do they have? And the opposite as well. How many extreme left-wing people have got connections to business, for example, where they know about the shareholder pressure in business and the balance of the triple bottom line and so on. So it's not all, ideology. And I read this example of this Palestinian in Israel that they both lost a daughter due to the respective terror attack. And they go around the country to give talks together as what they call themselves brothers. Because once you start putting a person behind an idea, it gets personal. And that's how we develop empathy. And having a diverse circle of friendships and proactively maybe include other people than exact copies of yourself can be so valuable for you to broaden your worldview. Sorry, I took
Yeah,
a bit of a
no,
turn now, but
it's a good analogy. And, the politics thing is, I don't see left, right, or middle. I see people who have a version of what they want their lives to be, or what they want their community to look like. I don't label them. I just, I think they're all stuck in like you say, their little bubble. And there's no empathy in the world at the moment. Nobody wants to understand what other people are going through. And you're absolutely right. You can very much make that comparison with friendships. we get drawn to people who are like us. We get drawn to people who want a clean street with no noise, and they don't want people from outside roaming around. And we want other people who are quite happy to have a community that's full of different types of people, and that's their thing. And that's exactly what friendship is. And the problems arise in both politics and friendships, where you get this antagonism. And people think the way we live is correct. The way my friends are all very great and very intelligent, and your friends aren't, that sort of thing. And there's no understanding of what people actually want. Things I want in my life are probably very different to what you want. I mean, obviously we want to eat and drink and breathe the air. But we probably differ in the color of curtains we like and all that kind of stuff. People are like that. But you should give a lot of leeway and a lot of tolerance to people who aren't like you, because they probably have something in them that you would like in the long run, and you can learn from that. And that's the same as politics, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting, because it makes me think of, a narrative that a lot of people apply in any kind of relationships in society, obviously now with the politics, in romantic relationships, but also in friendships. It's, are you focusing on the differences with a sense of fear and xenophobia and judgment, or are you curious about the commonalities? And I think if what you're saying, the likelihood that you have something with anyone in common, even if it's something small, it's almost 100%.
Yes.
But if you focus on what makes us divide these people, and I think that's exactly a problem that we have today because of social media, because of these bubbles. You may have 9 things in common, but because of that one thing where we disagree, we exclude someone.
Yep.
And I think that's responsible for the big divide that we have in society.
Absolutely.
It's always us versus them,
Yes.
rather than us, all humans. We're all humans. And it's this narrative, when you go back in history, it used to be Protestants against Catholics. Now it's Muslims against Christians, or white against black. But it's people, and I think that's what this narrative thrives on, to put the wedge into society or between people. Focus on the differences rather than...
It's easier. It's easier. It's the lazy way of living. It's really easy to concentrate on the things you don't like about people or cultures or religions, and then try and understand the bits you might actually like. And I think we need to flip the narrative. We need to, as pertains to friendship, we need to be the easy. What did we call them? The crush friendships.
Yeah.
They're easy, right? Done. We're going to be friends. Good. We're going to have a good time. It takes effort, but not as much as it does to go up to someone that you probably wouldn't be gravitating towards, and actually find out what makes them tick, and find out the bits that you actually like, what makes them tick. And we need to flip that in all walks of life, not just friendships, politics, religion, it's easy to sit and say that, isn't it? But I think a lot of people aren't talking about that. They're talking about the differences all the time.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It makes me think about something that I haven't actually consciously thought about before. But as we were having this conversation, I was just thinking, okay, if we were to focus on differences, we are quite different, right? I mean,
in many ways,
we have an
You've got
age
hair.
difference. Yes, I have hair. So do you. Not as much. But no, I mean, we have an age gap of 20 years.
Yeah.
You are obviously a man. I'm a woman. You are British by origin, living in Dubai. I'm Swiss. Now finally arrived back in Switzerland.
Good choice.
Can you think of other differences that we have? Like obvious ones?
You got glasses? I do. Yeah, I do actually. I do have glasses. Um, yeah, I think, from I think you're more energetic and dedicated than I am, in many ways. I think when you put your mind to something, you buckle down and you do it. I don't put my mind too much, but when I do, I will do it. But I probably not do it as thoroughly and as well as you, and as quickly as you. Um, so I think definitely you're a little bit more ambitious than I am, and you're probably a little bit more accountable than I am. I'm not saying I'm not accountable. Don't get me wrong. I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
saying
no,
you're.
right.
I think you're the next level, to me.
Thank you. Although that comes with a flip side as well, right? If I would say, I mean, I see myself as very passionate and getting things done, but the flip side of that is that I can, you know, well, take on too many things or
Yeah.
be passionate about too many things, burning myself out. You, from my perspective, you're someone who is much more wise in terms of how you pick your battles, where you put your energy to. And that's still something I need to learn. But it's, yeah, so there is differences between us, but I think what makes us friends is the things we have in common. Like, I think we share quite a dark sense of humor, which we both enjoy. But we also like to we debate and discuss quite a lot about also deep things. I enjoy that very much. So for me, it's in a friend to differentiate between a nice acquaintance to go to a party with or so, and a friend that I look after this friendship. For me, I need that depth,
Yeah.
way beyond superficial levels. And you have that. You're a very deep person. To me, you're one of, and this is not schmooze, but I've said this before. To me, you're one of the most intelligent people I know, and you're very wise. You live all over the place, and yes, we joke a lot, but also I think you're a very, very insightful, wise person.
Thank you. But I think a lot of that comes from, it's quid pro quo, because whatever I learn comes from other people, and that is including my friends, which probably most of it comes from my friends. So a lot of what I know comes from people like yourself. It's great with exploring the boundaries. You said that we talk a lot about deep things, and I've learned a lot. I've learned, how stupid I could be just by talking to people like you and Tracy. Yeah, no, really, because it's like, oh, my eyes have been opened.
So, what is the length you go through for a friendship?
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
you do for your friends?
No, it depends who they are. I think, for me, the important thing about friendship is not necessarily constant contact or anything. It's just being there. It's being available when they really need you. It's being available when they want to be happy, as well as the serious stuff. Take yourself as an example. I spend a lot of time on an aeroplane coming to have fun with you. Malaga and flying to Turkey and then flying to Switzerland for your housewarming party. And, I'm not bigging myself up. It's just there's no way I'd miss it because Iris wants me there and that's great. So I'm going. And I knew how much I'd enjoy it anyway, but it's supporting the good times and supporting the bad times. And whether it means getting on a train or in a car or on a plane, you can't do everything by Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You can't. You can do a little bit. I mean, I remember recently, about 4 or 5 months ago, I sent you and Tracy a message saying something big's just happened in my life. I need your opinion on something. There's no question I was going to ask you. And we jumped on a call like this, and that's exactly what I needed. I wasn't expecting it, but I needed it, and it was fantastic. And I hope that I can do the same, and I have done the same. Yeah, it's being there for them, regardless of what you're doing, because everyone's always doing something. But you've got to, I think, prioritizing friends when they need you is key to keeping the friendship going.
I remember you came to help me move house when I moved to Copenhagen.
Absolutely.
You traveled all the way from, I don't know, were you already living in Dubai? You came from Dubai
No,
for
I
2 nights.
no, I was in the
Oh,
UK.
you're still living
Yeah, I
in
was in the
England.
UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, you've flown over to Copenhagen for
I
2 nights.
came from the west coast of America
Oh
because
yeah, there you go.
I'd been there for work, and then I came
Yeah.
straight through, and
You spent the weekend helping me going to IKEA
oh, it was great fun.
and
Yeah,
buying flipping furniture and carrying it all into my new apartment. So yeah,
yeah,
that was fantastic.
and spent a few hours in the little room on the side
Yeah.
with the windows open. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I missed that room. It was a very small apartment, 45 square meters, and it was
it
very
was, but
old. It
that
was like,
room was awesome.
yeah. And the extra room we're talking about used to be a balcony, and they put in a window, but there still was no heating. So we were sat there, drinking prosecco, looking out on the streets under the heating blanket.
Yeah,
And then you remember when my neighbor Gide came as well? She rang the doorbell and she wanted something. And then I was like, oh, I've got my friend over from the UK. And we invited her in for a drink, and then she just happily snuck under the heating blanket as well. And we drank prosecco, the three of us. But
yeah, it was cool. Yeah, yeah. Those are the times when you recharge because you're with good people and like-minded people, good friends, and everyone needs that.
So we've talked about what we would do for friends and the length we go through for friendships. And I think you said something very true. It's, especially if there's a large distance in between people, like we have Dubai and Switzerland and England and so on. It's obviously harder to spend time together physically, but every now and then, either we came to Dubai or you came to Switzerland or we met somewhere else. And I think making that effort is, to me, is always a reminder as well. You know, I'm not a big fan of Dubai. The only reason I come there is for you guys. And for me, that's a reminder of how important you are to me, because it doesn't matter if we spend money on traveling somewhere where we don't necessarily like it so much, because we spent the money to spend time with you. And as you said, for important life events, we're there for one another. And yeah, I think that's what really counts as well.
Yep.
I want to talk a little bit about the loneliness crisis and the reasons why I'm doing this podcast in the first place. So I know you and I aren't lonely, but can you think of people that are lonely? Do you have lonely people maybe in your family or in your friend circle?
Yeah, so I think I do. In my family, I think you've got to define loneliness, because I think there's a perception of loneliness. So I can look at someone in my family and say, that's a lonely person, lives on their own, doesn't go out much, etc., etc. But when you talk to them, you get the impression that they actually like it. So my perception of loneliness and what they want to do might be two very different things. I have come across people who find it very difficult to make friends. Whether they qualify themselves as lonely or not, I won't judge, but they definitely struggle with making friends, whether they're just deeply introverted or they're very shy or they have a lack of self-esteem and confidence. It's really difficult to make friends in the modern world if you don't get the friend crush. Is very difficult because it means effort. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to overcome your inhibitions, and you've got to join clubs, the hobbies that you enjoy, and meet people that way. You've got to get out. And that's tough because the world is so fast paced these days and so noisy and kind of scary. And social media is always telling us that we've got to look our best and we've got to act our best and we've got to be the best of this and we've got to see the best of that and we've got to go there and we've got to go here and we've got to like this music. And it's really overwhelming for a lot of people. There are a lot of people who see that and they just shut the door. And I don't blame them, actually.
Yeah.
They shut the noise outside because there's no way I can live up to all that stuff. And it's really tough for people. My advice to anyone who feels that is get yourself into situations that you know you're going to enjoy. So a hobby, something you're interested in, join that car club, join the stamp collectors, whatever it is, join it and drag yourself out and get there, and things will happen. You'll meet like-minded people.
I think you touched on something very important. What is loneliness? So
Yeah.
I fully agree that not having a lot of people, a lot of buzz, a lot of friends doesn't necessarily mean you're lonely. So there's a lot of people I know as well that really value being alone.
Mhm.
And to be quite honest, the older I get, the more I appreciate being alone as well. So yes, having a lot of friends and having a lot of buzz is giving me energy. But the older I get, I also start to get energy from spending me time and alone time. That's not loneliness. So loneliness is, and I'm sure there's an official definition somewhere, but if someone doesn't want to be alone, so it's not an act of choice to spend quality time with yourselves, but you wish, you yearn for someone
Yeah.
to share a story, to share your experience, to share time with, and you haven't got anyone or you haven't got access to anyone. When I think about aloneness as a chosen act or a chosen thing to do, because I value me time, is different than being lonely, being at home, becoming bitter. And one thing I observe with a lot of these people who are lonely is, and again, I'm not generalizing, it's just something that comes to mind when I think about the people I have in my family or in my life that I know that are lonely. Many of them tend to go into this victim thing of, the world owes me. Why is no one looking after me? Why is not a neighbor coming to see how I'm doing? Why, if I shared on Facebook that I'm sad about something, why are people not queuing up in front of my door to make sure I'm okay? And it puts that responsibility completely onto others, which we all have moments when we feel like a victim, and that's only human and it's fair. But if you do that as a default mechanism, if you're a lonely person, you're gonna stay lonely, because the only person who can be responsible for your situation is always yourself. You can't make anyone ever responsible for your own luck and happiness, not your partner, not your parents, not your siblings. It's always your own responsibility. And what you're saying is that proactive element of not just going out, but also when people are in this victim mentality, and probably it's also due to social media these days, because as you say, we deserve. We're being told that we don't have to think a lot about what we contribute to a situation. It's that notion of the world owes me
Mhm.
that really is a big problem. And whoever is lonely out there, next to going out and putting yourself out there and being vulnerable, I really encourage people to think as well, what value do I add to someone's life? Not just what do I want out of a friendship, but what do I offer in return? And I think that is a problem, because it's that sense of entitlement, right? I am lonely, so I deserve to be loved. I deserve a friend. But not enough people these days, whether it's in friendship or in romantic relationship or in business or in society, critically review what they bring to the table. So it's about reflection, it's about introspection, it's about checking on your own values and contributions and what effort you make to make the world a better place or to make a friendship better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think entitlement is beating empathy at the moment, for sure, in the world. And if you look at social media analogies, it's the post that says so-and-so checked into the hospital, and that's it. And you're like, all right, give me attention. give me attention. It's all over the place at the moment. You see it everywhere, that kind of attention entitlement, as you put it. But there is, behind all that, there is obviously something crying out that people do that. Most people do it because they do need attention. It's not because they just, think they're wonderful and they need everyone to lord over them the whole time. But people do need attention. It's a human instinct. But you made a fair point. They're the only ones really, when it comes down to it, that can drag themselves out. So if you are lonely, I really would recommend just look at what you've got to offer other people and go and do that. And you'll probably find one or two people who you can become friends with.
Yeah, and think about what it is you would look for in a friend.
Mhm.
If you feel lonely, what exactly is it you're missing?
Yeah.
And then have a hard look on yourself and really think, am I offering these things to someone else also? And if not, that's where your starting point probably should be, right?
Yeah.
It is a two-way street. It's not always in the perfect balance, and it doesn't need to be. Like, we all have our struggles and commitments and so on. So it's absolutely fair if it's not tit for tat all the time, but over a length of time, it needs to be two-sided.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask you, if you think about our friendship,
Yeah.
what's one of your favorite friendship moments from us?
I think we've mentioned one already, which was when you were moving into Copenhagen, but also we had a little trip to Tallinn, which was eye-opening in more than one way. And I think actually deepened our friendship because that was affirming because, we had some frank conversations, I seem to remember, and it wasn't all great fun, but we stuck at it and, we're still here today. So that's one that sticks in my memory a lot.
I love that you, I love
Yeah.
that you picked this example because this is actually, in a way, it's the worst friendship moment we had.
Yes.
We both were in very toxic relationships and we were completely exhausted from these relationships. And we both have been traveling all week and we got together to catch up for a weekend in Tallinn. I think we had a meeting as well in Tallinn, and then we stayed the weekend to spend some friendship time there. And we got into a row because we both were very needy of each other's time. Like, we both were complaining about these shitty relationships we've been in. And I think that was, in the end, what the fight started. I mean, it was, in a way, very ridiculous. I'm like, oh, it's my turn to complain, and you never listen.
Yeah.
And you're like,
My
but
complaint is worse than your complaint.
exactly. I'm miserable. I need to.
I'm more miserable than you are.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually ended in us outside a bar in the middle of Tallinn. We were on the balcony having a smoke, and we started screaming at each other, to the point where we both ended up crying and hugging and realizing how flipping ridiculous we are being. And that has been a very defining moment in our friendship. The fact that we managed the U-turn from this ridiculous fight, but it was a bad fight. We were shouting at each other. I rarely shouted at people, in my life. And yes, that has really cemented our
absolutely
friendship.
Yeah. I mean, if we didn't lose our friendship, then we were never going to. So
Yeah.
it's good. And talking about angry confrontations, another favorite memory of mine,
Oh, no.
and you can cut this bit if you like, was in Las Vegas, of course. When we were there, we're just dropping names now, aren't we? When we decided one night that we were going to test the security.
Oh my God.
And we started slapping each other on the face.
Do you remember how
like gently at first, and then a little bit more vigorously. Until the point where the barman actually came over and said, "I'm going to call the police." And we went, "No, no, no, we're friends. It's okay. It's all right." This poor American barman's like, "Oh, what's going on?" it
Remember how
was
it
it was
started?
silly. Yeah.
Uh, So we started talking about this TV series called How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
And then Barney has this slap bet going on with Marshall, I think, and they slap each other across the face until you see the handprint on the cheek. And for some reason, we started talking about this, and then for some reason, we were like, "Oh, I wonder how it feels to slap someone like really bad." We were quite drunk at the time, and we both realized, "Oh man, we want to experience the feeling how it is to slap someone across the face." But then, of course, no one wanted to be slapped. And then we said, "Well, how about we strike a deal? You get to slap me full force, and I get to slap you full force." Then we kept just slapping each other,
Yeah.
harder and harder. And security from the casino came up and we had to leave the bar, but we were just like slapping the shit out of one another
I
and
know.
like giggling like little children.
Two grown adults. Yeah. And
Yeah, but now we know, you see.
yeah, no, that
Yeah.
was good. And there are many others. I mean, like I mentioned, coming to see you when you have a party down in Malaga for your 40th, that was fantastic. Your housewarming party was amazing. And you coming to Dubai. And you also came to my second wedding. I got married to my current wife in Seychelles, and we had a very small entourage of people. But the next year, we had all the families and friends from elsewhere in a bigger party in Turkey. It was amazing that you could make it. It was a great week.
Oh, it was fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful ceremony and everything. It was
Yeah,
great to meet your family and Cooper's family as well. So that was
yeah,
lovely. Yeah. Yeah. And I just also think about the extended work trips that we did together with Tracy, like in Grand Canyon, where we played cowboys. And of course, as always, Tracy made us go on a fucking horse.
yeah, yeah. The guy singing the Swedish song. You have to tell that story.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I lived in Sweden at the time and we were at this cowboy ranch that was an actual cowboy ranch with actual cowboys. But then they took a few tourist families in and we were one of these tourists. And one of the cowboys, he made up songs on the go around the campfire and he asked everyone where they lived and then he would make up a song. And so when it was my turn, I said, I live in Sweden. And he says, oh, the Swedish, the Vikings, the strong men, and, cutting down the trees and whatnot. And I corrected him and I said, well, these days, actually, equality has gone to a point where, in my opinion, I'm obviously all for equality and feminism. But in Sweden, back then, I almost felt chivalry has disappeared. So I remember moving to Sweden and carrying all these heavy book boxes up to my apartment and, young men passing me and they wouldn't
In red
offer their
trousers.
help. And I was
Yeah.
shocked. And I offered my help to an older Swedish woman at the supermarket to help load her bags into her car. And she got so upset that I kind of insinuated that she wasn't able to do it herself. And I was like, oh, wow. Ooh. So I told him about that and he adjusted the song accordingly.
It was funny because he did a great job, by the way. He showed a really good sense of humor for a cowboy. And but the other people around the campfire, they're all from Idaho and Minnesota, and what they asked for was all like, "Hey, sing a song about how great New Jersey is," and and then you go sing a song slagging off Swedish men, and he did,
Yeah.
yeah, he did.
Funny.
Yeah,
Funny.
that was.
Oh, Neil.
And we all had
Yes.
those. We all had cowboy hats on. I've still got a picture of the three
Oh,
cowboy
yeah.
hats lying in bed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had the biggest
Yeah, of course. You had the biggest
one.
hand.
Yeah.
So, Neil, this is wonderful. And thank you for this conversation. If there is a last piece of advice for our listeners and for our audience, I just called you one of the most intelligent and wise people that I know.
Too
So
much pressure.
if you were to
Yeah.
spread your wisdom into our audience when it comes to creating a meaningful life and how friendships can be part of that, what would those words be?
Creating a meaningful life. Oh my goodness, you've asked me what's the meaning of life.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I'll try and answer. Piece of advice that I got when I was very young was don't try too hard. And what they meant by that was not be lazy. They didn't mean be lazy. Things will happen. You're entitled. Things will happen to you. They didn't mean that. What they meant was basically don't get so stressed about succeeding, about having friends, about having girlfriends, boyfriends, succeeding at sport. Don't get stressed about it. If you've got it in you, and each person on the planet has got something, at least one thing. Some people have got more, but at least one thing that they excel at and that they can offer to other people. Everybody has that. That will come out. Don't stress about it too much because you will become lonely. If you think about, you decide I'm lonely, instead of thinking, okay, I'm alone, but I have so much to offer, then it's not a good way to get out of that. So don't try so hard. Live your life, do what you want to do what you enjoy, and good things will come about. As long as what you want to do and what you enjoy are good things, then it'll work.
I'm on board with your piece of advice, but also it's a bit contradicting. If we're saying go out there, try and force yourself to be out there and, think about what you can offer. And if at the same time we tell people not to try so hard, that's a bit of a contradiction. So whilst I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Try. I mean, by trying so hard, it's not a functional thing. Going out, yes, you do have to go out. But by not trying so hard, what they meant was, and what I've kind of been trying to live is, don't get so worked up and stressed about how you're going to appear and what you're going to say. And do they like me? Does that person like me? That's what they meant. Of course, we have to get out of bed. Of course, we have to open the door. That's not what they meant. They meant in the way you portray yourself, don't worry too much about it. Don't worry too much about what you look like. All that kind of stuff, the superficial stuff.
So if I were to translate this into other words, it would be don't be desperate.
Yes.
Like go out and try, but don't be desperate and kind of aggressive and pushy and forceful about it.
Yep.
And the other thing is don't aim for perfection. So don't try to bring a perfect version of yourself to the outer world, because the irony, and I mean that in the best sense possible, your imperfections are exactly what makes you human, and it makes you vulnerable, and it's what attracts other people. So having met only a few what I consider perfect people in my life, I actually was turned off by that. That perfectness, like nothing drew me to that person. I got bored instantly, of someone who speaks 5 languages, has a perfect career, is a perfect mother or father, has a perfect house, goes to the gym every day. And, it bores me just talking about these people. They were super nice people, but I had no urge to stay in contact with them. On the other hand, if someone is a bit socially awkward and you kind of relate to them, you're like, oh my God, I can tell they're nervous and human, and it makes you connect. So done is better than perfect, and don't be desperate and too pushy and forceful about it.
Yeah, you put it much better than I did.
Sorry, I didn't mean to correct you.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we've all got things to offer, and don't try and be someone who you're not. You say you've met a couple of perfect people. Don't try and be like them, because you'll just get depressed. And,
Yeah. Well, Neil, thank you so much for participating in my podcast.
It's been wonderful, and I really hope that it's been useful, and it's brought up some great memories as well, and it's actually underlined what our friendship is. So it's been fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
I thank you for your friendship, and thank you for being in my life.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Speak soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care. See you later.
If you like this content, follow the show and find us on social media. See you there.